businesses from Town Square Media, South Jersey.
When you hear this,
they've got him again!
And this,
he scored!
And this,
oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition of Game Night. And we do have a game tonight at the Sixers. And I'll tell you what I have seen through two games from the Nuggets that the 76ers can learn from moving forward. Plus, we will break down the games a little bit later this hour overall. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. Also, your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And, you know, we'll touch on the Phillies a little bit before we get out of here as well, because Phillies are back in action a little bit later this evening. But I want to start with the basketball because I now have two games of the Nuggets in the conference finals in this series. And it's very obvious to me why they're winning. And it's not because Nikola Jokic is a better player than Joel Embiid. The people who are out there saying that are obviously anti-Joel Embiid. The reason why the Nuggets are winning and they're up 2-0 in their series is because Joel Embiid does not have the talent around him that Jokic has. I asked Mike Gill the question earlier on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN about how, you know, him and Tim McMahon talked about over a month ago. They talked about how there are 16 game players and there are 82 game players. And I asked the question, does Joel Embiid not have enough 16 game players around him to win? And my answer is yes. See, my big takeaway from the games are not Jokic. Because guess what? Jokic doesn't play good defense. Jokic is a weak side rebounder. Jokic is not in the paint banging with other guys, going to get rebounds constantly. Nikola Jokic is not going out there and intimidating other people and blocking shots. In fact, you could argue he's not even the third best shot blocker on his team. The best shot blocker on his team is Aaron Gordon. Jokic is not even the second or third potentially on his own team, but he's a 7-foot guy. And a big reason why people have argued for Embiid to be MVP is because Embiid brings such an impact on the defensive side of the ball. So for me, I look at the Nuggets and I say they're not winning because of Jokic. Yeah, Jokic is putting up incredible offensive statistical numbers. But it's his teammates that are really getting the job done for him. I look at the Nuggets and I see a team. I don't see an individual. I think that is, for me, what the differentiation is. To me, the difference maker is when the Nuggets won by 5 points, it was because Jamal Murray closed out that game. They won that game because Anthony Davis did not have a good game. And that wasn't Jokic guarding Anthony Davis, okay? Jokic was guarding Hui Hachimura in the first half, and Hachimura, I think, had 17 points? I got to double check the number, but I believe it was 17 points in 14 minutes last night. It was absolutely ridiculous that, Jokic is so bad He is so poor. Here it is. Yeah, Hui Hachimura had 17 points in the first half last night in 14 minutes of playing time. And he was a perfect 7 for 7. And that's who Jokic was guarding. So Davis didn't limit his points. No, that was because of Aaron Gordon and other guys on the team stepped up. Aaron Gordon's not giving you a ton of points, but he's giving you good defense. He's active as a defender. He's done a good job in these 2 games. Michael Porter Jr. has developed into an underrated rebounder, in my opinion. Jamal Murray started the game not so good, finished the game very strong. 37 points. He led the team in scoring. And you look at the bench, Bruce Brown, he's giving you 2 threes off the bench. He's getting you rebounds. He's getting you some assists, doing a little defense, making life a little extra frustrating for the perimeter guys. D'Angelo Russell is giving the Lakers nothing in this series. He is literally becoming a waste of a player on the floor. LeBron's not getting the help from his teammates he needs. LeBron James at 38 years old cannot carry a team single-handedly like he did 7-8 years ago when the Cavs lost Kyrie Irving and Timothy Mozgov, and LeBron just wheeled his way to make his team competitive every night. LeBron's not that player anymore. He's older. He doesn't have that ability anymore. So when Anthony Davis doesn't have a good night and D'Angelo Russell comes up short, and you're hoping Dennis Schroeder scores and he can't score, and Lonnie Walker comes up small, it's Denver's defense. You got to give Denver's team credit. And that's the lesson for the 76ers to be learned in all this. The lesson for the Sixers is Joel Embiid. I know he was criticized for saying this, but when Joel Embiid said this after they lost that game, he wasn't wrong. Now, he was wrong for including Harden, in my opinion, but he wasn't wrong when he said this.
We got the chance to win, but, it's going to take, more than us. We all got to look at ourselves. I got to be better, and I will be better. That's what I'm focused on. All of us, we got to, come back and find ways to just keep improving and, help the team. You can't win alone. I can't win alone. Me and James, we just can't win alone. That's why basketball is played 5-on-5. So, we just need everybody to just, try to keep finding ways to get better, and, we'll be fine.
He's not wrong. He can't do it by himself. And this attitude that, Joel Embiid has to do this and do that. I don't deny Embiid needs to get better. But you could also argue that Embiid has things he can improve on and he can get better. And, there's a lot of belief out there that Embiid will be better next year than this past year. Embiid's problem has always been 2 issues. One, he can't stay healthy. He constantly gets injured. It's always something. It's the thumb. It's the knee. It's the face. It's always something. The other side of the problem for Embiid is he hasn't always had the best supporting cast. When they had him, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, arguably one of the best rosters he's ever played with, the backup center position was horrible. And they couldn't get the job done against the Raptors in 7 games. And they lost on a last-second shot against Kawhi. But since then, Embiid has not had elite players around him. And the hope was that Harden was going to be the guy to make that difference. And now it's obvious that Harden isn't just not the guy, but he doesn't want to be here. Reports are that Harden is going to go to Houston. He's not going to resign in Philadelphia. And this is probably the agreement that Morey and Harden made together last summer. Last summer, when we gave Harden and Morey credit for Harden taking less money so they could bring in PJ Tucker and bring in Daniel House, the idea was that Harden made that agreement because he knew he could hit free agency again. And that was probably part of the conversation. Morey said, look, let me do this. Let me do what I do. I'm going to put you in a position to be successful, and you're going to have the opportunity to go out there and win. And PJ Tucker scored more points than James Harden in Game 7. It's James Harden's fault. It's not Embiid's fault that he played poorly. It's Harden's fault. So Morey gave Harden his out, and Harden is taking it. Harden apparently wants to not be here anymore. He wants to move on. And as Charles Barkley told Mike Missinelli on the Mike Missinelli podcast, he said the Sixers should move on from Harden.
The Harden decision is very easy. I think they got to move on from James. That's my personal opinion. Like, if they do something stupid like extend him, that'll be the end of the Sixers for the next 5 years. But that's the big decision they got to make. It's going to be painful. It's going to be difficult, but they got to move on from James Harden.
They got to move on. Because at the end of the day, no player wins by themselves. And while we can sit here and criticize Embiid for not playing well in the final 2 games, we can't ignore the fact that his teammates didn't do their job. You can't name a championship team with one guy doing all the work. Even that famous or infamous NBA Finals that happened before most of us were born, that Jerry West won the Finals MVP and his team lost. Even then, they still lost, right? They still had some Hall of Famers on a team like Elgin Baylor. So we have this attitude toward professional athletes that they have to meet a certain criteria. And when they don't meet that criteria, we treat it like it's something that it's not. I think it's unfair. Look, people can look at Jokic and say all they want about him. But the reality is that Jokic is not a better player than Embiid. He's on a better team. Michael Jordan won after they built the team better and they brought in Phil Jackson. Kobe and Shaq won once they changed the coach and they built a better roster around them, like adding Robert Horry to the team. Do we really think it's a coincidence that Giannis finally won a championship when he got his 3rd coach? Giannis was not the player he is today when he first came into the NBA. Is it possible that maybe the 3rd coach is the guy who unlocks another level for Embiid? It's certainly possible. I'm not going to deny the reality that many teams have a lot of factors that we don't always know about until years later for why they don't have success. All right, text board is open, 609-403-0973. Also can DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Hal in Delaware says, hey, Josh, you and Mike Gill have talked about in the past about the Warriors possibly not having Draymond Green next year. Would he be a good fit for the Sixers? He certainly fits the criteria of 16-game guy, not 82-game guy. My only concern with Draymond on a team like the Sixers is I think Draymond and PJ Tucker are too similar. You would have 2 guys on the court who do similar things. Now, if your argument is you need more PJ Tuckers on the floor, okay. But the problem is that in Eastern Conference, where Giannis is 6'10", 6'11", Tatum is what, 6'8", 6'9", Jaylen Brown is 6'7". There's a lot of bigger players in the East on these teams. Chris Middleton, I believe, is 6'7". I have to double check that exactly how tall he is. But there's a lot of guys who are taller than PJ Tucker. There's a lot of guys who are taller than Draymond Green. So can you get away with a roster that has 2 guys who are a little undersized height-wise? And don't forget, Green and Tucker are both getting older. I don't know if you can get away with having Green and Tucker on a team and still win like that. I see more messages coming in. I'll get to you guys a little bit later in the hour. 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Off to Murray, who can't miss in the fourth quarter. Another three.
After winning games 1 and 2 at home, the Nuggets take a 2-0 lead to Los Angeles, where the Lakers face a critical Game 3. How will they respond? Game 3 of the Lakers and Nuggets, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on ABC.
Listen to the Western Conference Finals exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
Yes, 5.05% APY. For a limited time, when you open a 13-month CD with at least $10,000 of new money to Ocean First, you can earn this great return. Don't delay. Visit oceanfirst.com for complete details and to open online. Certain rules and restrictions apply. Member FDIC.
With summer savings at the Home Depot, we'll get your kitchen clicking. With top brand appliances, like a new GE refrigerator with internal water dispenser for a crisp, cool glass of water every time. Or a GE oven with built-in air fryer for healthier, crispier options with no preheating. Plus, with convenient shopping in-store and online at the Home Depot, your innovative new appliances are just a click away, too. Save up to 30% on select appliances plus $300 off select refrigerators at the Home Depot. Pricing valid May 18th through June 7th, 2023. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
O'Reilly. Get your vehicle ready for spring during Clean Car Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Pro X1 exterior cleaning and detailing products provide professional results and show quality shine for your vehicle. Right now, pick up Pro X1 Snow Foam Car Wash 2 for just $15. See store for details. Pro X1 exclusively at your local O'Reilly Auto Parts or O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Shiny and strong and healthy and hydrated. Your hair can do it all. So get to Ulta Beauty's gorgeous hair event happening now to see how you can take your hair to a whole new level. Discover beauty steals of 50% off must-haves from brands like Way and It's a 10. And explore exciting new arrivals from Lola V and Olaplex. These deals won't last long. So hurry. This event ends June 3rd. Shop in-store, online, or pick up today. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins, too, for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program, brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsandsons.com.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Leaving for the gym so early?
I'm ready to go.
Since you started taking Nugenix Total T, you've been acting like when we met in our 20s.
I feel like myself again. Lower testosterone after turning 40 slowed me down. Nugenix Total T has been a game changer for me.
What is it about Nugenix Total T that's different?
Well, it's a patented key ingredient called Testofen. It boosts free and total testosterone to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. It's backed by 5 clinical studies.
I've seen the huge difference it's made for you in the gym, at work, and in the bedroom.
I'm so glad I sent them a text for my complimentary bottle. Text ROCK to 321321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now, and we'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever. Absolutely free. Text ROCK to 321321. That's ROCK to 321321.
With GMF financing, qualified buyers excludes Corvette.
At Bennett Chevrolet, we're selling new Chevys at real GM supplier employee prices and not 1 cent more. And you keep all the rebates. Not some. I said you keep all the rebates. Up to $8,000 right now during our Memorial Day super sale. Some dealers think they can imitate Bennett by giving you a discount, but they keep part or all the rebates. Bennett Chevy gives you both the real deal GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates. Up to $8,000 grand during our Memorial Day super sale. And there's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Bennett will pay you a minimum $10,000 for any clunker, junker, or whatever you can drag to our lot towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least 10 grand. We pay a lot more for good trades. And unlike other dealers, our sales team is non-commissioned. They're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. You've got to come experience the difference. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Jenkins and Sons, one call does it all. You only need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumber guy. Just call Jenkins, 609-641-6440 for new heating and air installations, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, drain cleaning services. Jenkins has got you covered. 609-641-6440. And you can visit them online at jenkinsandsons.com. We will get to James, Cole, and the rest of you guys a little bit later in the hour. But right now, we're going to break down more of both conference finals. Of course, you can hear the games right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage tonight of Game 2 of Celtics and Heat begins at 8 p.m. tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. Joining us now, we've had him on the show before. Of course, he is the senior NBA betting analyst for VSiN. Also, you can catch him on ESPN Las Vegas. Jonathan Von Tobel joins us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Jonathan, my friend, welcome back in. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually hanging out on the strip right now in Las Vegas at TI, so it's a good spot to be for the game that about to start in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
So what is your take on these conference final series at the get-go? Like, do you have like a big takeaway for you at the start here?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Western Conference Finals, I think Denver is finally getting some due in terms of they're just a really deep and a very good. Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball right now. He's playing at a really high level. We know how good he can be, but for him to finally get this moment, right, this platform to show his game to a lot of people who maybe didn't watch very much of him in the regular season or questioned whether or not he should have been MVP each of the last two seasons before Joel Embiid won this one. I think it's really cool to watch that and that team finally get its due. And the other takeaway I think of the East is, I'm a big data guy. I'm a big numbers guy. Sometimes there's things in sports that are unquantifiable by numbers and data, and that would be the way the Miami Heat play or the way that the Boston Celtics struggle to put things consistently on the night-to-night basis. But I think those are probably the two main takeaways if you're looking at these things from the outside.
So I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on one point, because I think the big thing about Jokic and the Nuggets is Jokic has a better team around him this year than he's ever had. I mean, to me, what you're getting from Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, I think are huge compliments. Because at the end of the day, does Jokic get 10, 15 assists if the guys aren't making the shots? So to me, I think that we need to give credit to the team around him that's putting him in a position to win.
I think that's true, but I also think if you watch, in terms of the assists, right, when you watch the way that Jokic passes, it's almost like a quarterback who throws his guy open. Like, he's directing guys, he's putting it only where he can, especially those cuts to the basket. He is brilliant at threading the needle in a lot of those and getting guys in position to hit those. So I think you're right. Everybody deserves some credit. And Jamal Murray was part of that bubble run back in 2020 that I think now has some legitimacy behind it, right? Because now we know that these four teams that were in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals of the bubble are back. And Aaron Gordon was a big piece. And it's actually why, Josh, you go back to a couple of years ago when Jamal Murray first tore his ACL. A lot of people thought that team, when they acquired Aaron Gordon, was going to make a run for this thing. And now that everybody's healthy and put back together, to your point about having a better team around him and the additions of KCP and Bruce Brown, this team looks like it's got some championship metal to it.
I mean, if I had to assume right now, I feel like if I was to walk into the strip down in Vegas right now, Jonathan, I'm probably placing a bet on the Nuggets to win the championship. If you had to make me bet on somebody, because of the four teams, I feel like they're the one I have the most confidence in showing up.
I would say so. They seem to be the most complete. doesn't it? They have Michael Malone, who's a very good head coach, who can change things up, can scheme things, can draw his guys open. You saw some of the adjustments last night where, okay, if you're going to put Rui Hachimura on Nikola Jokic, then we're going to isolate Rui Hachimura and Nikola Jokic. We're going to make Anthony Davis play on the other side of the court. If nobody else is scoring, then we're going to draw plays up for Michael Porter Jr. You see the impact of Michael Malone. You know how good Jokic is. You know how good the supporting cast is. So I would agree with you. I think at this point right now, the Denver Nuggets are rightfully so favored to win this thing.
What does it say to you after 2 games that Rui Hachimura has become a better offensive weapon than D'Angelo Russell?
Yeah, I think it does speak to the. I'll put it this way: the fact that Russell is struggling the way that he is, but is still getting time. I think it shows you what this team really needs in terms of shooters and guys who could space the floor. Because any other team, Russell's minutes are getting cut. He's not having the big role that he is. But because he is at least a shooting threat, then he's getting time out there. You know, you'll liken it to a couple of years back when James Harden had that really messed up hamstring, but he still played for Brooklyn in that series because he was just a threat to hit 3-point shots, and you at least had to respect him out on the perimeter. It's kind of the same thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at this to see Lonnie Walker start to eat into his minutes a little bit more. I don't think there's a massive difference between Lonnie Walker and D'Angelo Russell right now. So whoever's got the hot hand, you're going to see it. And to your point, Hachimura's been awesome. The Lakers deserve a ton of credit because they do have an eye for talent. They have a lot of guys who they draft and develop very well. They also know when to buy low on guys. Hachimura is one of those two, and he's done a brilliant job. I mean, what was he, like $1 million for $1 million yesterday? He was awesome. So, no, I think you're absolutely right. Russell's story is going to be one to watch here as we move forward.
We're talking with Jonathan Von Tobel. You can follow him on Twitter at MeJVT. Of course, you can catch him on ESPN Las Vegas. And, of course, he is the senior NBA betting analyst for VSiN. So, looking ahead to tonight's game, Celtics Heat. I know a lot of people in our area, they're kind of like secretly rooting for Jimmy Butler because it's like, at least Jimmy could beat the Celtics. We'll all be happy. But it's so weird because the Heat were the team that nobody thought could get here, right? And they're the team that looks, pretty good right now after the Celtics kind of looked listless in game 1.
Yeah, and look, I was one of those people after, when you go into the series with Milwaukee, keep in mind, right, after they got smoked by the Heat in the first play-in game and need a comeback against Chicago, I don't think it was a fault of anybody to think that Miami wasn't going to do much. But they get incredible shooting in round 1. Then they match up with an opponent that I thought they matched up well with in New York to be able to take them out. But here in this series, if you looked at all of the different strengths for the Boston Celtics, you thought, this should be a series that the Celtics, or at least I thought, the Celtics should win easily. And maybe they still can. Because when you go back to game 1, when you see the Heat shoot over 60% on long twos, when you see them shoot over 50% from 3, you're like, well, I mean, they're not going to be able to do this the entire time. But they kind of did it to Milwaukee. It's crazy to think, but they actually might be able to pull it off. But I wouldn't fault anybody if they're in my camp, which they think the Celtics still have the pieces to beat this team and beat them relatively quickly.
It's weird because one of the conversations we have out here is that debate about how important is the head coach, right? Yep. So it's like, obviously Spoelstra might be the best coach in the NBA, right? And Mazzulla is, compared to Spoelstra, very inexperienced as a coach. But does that even matter in a series like this? Do you feel like when you're analyzing a series, are you looking at it like, hey, Mazzulla versus Spoelstra, or do you throw that out the door altogether?
No, I think there's nuance to it. I think when it comes to a series like this, Spoelstra does matter because of the pieces on that team. And we're talking about, 3 undrafted guys, guys who weren't really highly touted dudes who were coming in and playing massive roles. And their roles are growing because Tyler Hero is injured. And so a guy like Eric Spoelstra can maximize a roster like this and get them to perform at their best level. And then you have a performer like Jimmy Butler, who, again, kind of going back to what we talked about, like being unquantifiable, a guy who just plays very well in the postseason. So I think it does matter. But I will say, to your point, in terms of coaching not mattering, all of the issues the Celtics are having this year are the same issues they had last year. And Ime Udoka was their head coach. They were bad in clutch time last year. They're bad in clutch time this year. They struggle in fourth quarters of closing out games. They're struggling to close out the fourth quarters of games. Jason Tatum is turning the ball over in fourth quarters, as is Jaylen Brown. They're doing it last year. So does coaching have an effect? I think so. But I think there's some nuance into how you weight it.
And the reason I ask that is because for Sixer fans, a lot of Sixer fans, checking us out here on 97.3 ESPN, they are trying to figure out who should be the next head coach of the team. And a lot of people felt like Doc Rivers did a good job coaching. And they look at Missoula and they're like, man, Missoula got really outcoached in some of those games. And there's still speculation that people feel like the Sixers lost game 6 more than the Celtics won game 6. So it's like, is there any lingering from the Sixers series for the Celtics against a grinding team like the Heat?
I think there probably could be. I mean, that's definitely a series that the Celtics wanted to end early. You want to end all series early. But I think there might be some residual effects from that. I mean, you look at it and maybe it just takes place in game 1 where you play a game 7. Yes, you get 2 days off, but there's still the residual effects of going through a series like that. And you come out flat in game 1, and maybe the Celtics going to shake that off and move on. But I think there's something to that. And I also think when you're looking at it from Philly's perspective, I mean, I think you can point to quite a few games where I don't know if it was coaching. I think there were some times where certain players didn't step up in a moment and play the best game that we knew they can, whether it was Joel Embiid or James Harden. So I think that there's definitely something to that.
Speaking of the Sixers, if you had to place the betting odds, or if you looked at the betting odds, in your opinion, who do you think is going to be the next Sixers coach and why?
Man, I mean, I think if you should be able to get any one of these guys because they're attractive head coaching jobs, whether it's Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, or Mike Budenholzer. I'll make Bud the slight favorite with familiarity in the Eastern Conference. I think that would work out for him. I think the roster, especially if Chris Middleton decides to enact his, or decline his player option, hit the free agent market, and if Harden's really gone, as some reports have indicated, to add like a Chris Middleton type and Bud comes over to at least give you something there, that might be a pretty nice core to work with if you Mike Budenholzer.
It's interesting because the first guy who's going to interview is Nick Nurse. Obviously the guy who interviews first doesn't always mean they get the job, but it's interesting that he's the first guy in the door at least.
Yeah, and because we saw what Nick Nurse built in Toronto, right? It was a little different roster-wise than Philly. It was a bunch of wings, a bunch of guys who were about 6'7" to 6'8", super twitchy and athletic, can switch everything, can get up and down the floor and live in transition. That's not what Philly's going to be, especially with Joel Embiid as the centerpiece. So I think that would be intriguing because I think Nick Nurse is an awesome defensive head coach. It's just, what does he look like now where his best player is not a 6'7", 6'8" athletic wing? It's a 7-footer in Joel Embiid with the skill that he has that wants to play a little bit slower.
You mentioned the idea of Middleton potentially opting out if Budenholzer goes to Philly. What do you think about the rumors of potentially the Sixers trying to pry Siakam away in his final year of his contract if Nurse is hired?
I think you've got to do something, especially if Harden's going to go, only because this free agency class is pretty weak. And there's a lot of guys who would be at the top of the class that have those player options like Middleton and others, that if they decide to take them, this class gets a lot weaker. And if Harden's going to be gone, I don't know what you're realistically looking at that you're going to add that would not only just match where you were with Harden, but then make you better so you could get past the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics and, well, we have to include them now again, the Miami Heats of the Eastern Conference.
Speaking of the Miami Heat, who is a guy that is going to make that difference in the offseason that could maybe make a team into a Miami Heat, a team that was low in the standings? Because for the Sixers, they don't have a lot of cap opportunity, right? They got to make trades. People are talking about where's Kyrie Irving going to go, right? Could a team trade for Dame Lillard? Is there a guy that you're looking at and you're like, let me tell you something. If that guy lands somewhere, watch out.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. It's a guy that's going to have to be acquired because, you look at the free agents. We mentioned Chris Middleton. Fred VanVleet is not really a guy that's going to change things for you. If you're a team like Philadelphia that might push you over the top, he'll make you better, but he's not going to push you past that mark. So I think you're talking about acquiring dudes via trade. And I think Portland's fascinating because I think if you're in the front office, getting that 3rd overall pick does change things if you're the Portland Trailblazers. Because are you going to ship that off to try to do something? Or are you really going to start to sit back and go, you know what? We've got a young core. We've got the 3rd overall pick. Dame, we're sorry, but we got to find something for you because we're just going to risk our entire timeline to try to get to the Western Conference semifinals. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I would very much keep my eye on Damian Lillard.
Lillard's been on Twitter saying he likes Joel Embiid and the Sixers team. So, let the speculation begin, right?
Yeah, dude, absolutely. And look, players have power. If you're Joel Embiid, I don't know how you're not leaning on it, especially if Harden is actually gone. How you're not leaning on them and saying, do you know what we could do if it's me and Damian Lillard and the rest of this core? Make it work and make it happen.
You mentioned Joel Embiid. Do you think Embiid is one of those guys who doesn't lean into the player empowerment stuff as maybe other guys do? Because it feels like a guy like an Anthony Davis or a Damian Lillard, they feel like they're more of a vocal guy than an Embiid who's just like, oh, I love Philadelphia kind of thing. Like, how is your perspective looking from the outside in?
I mean, I think it would seem like that, but I also think guys change when you start to acquire the power that you have. And it's not like I mean it in a negative sense. I just think if you're Joel Embiid, you realize, hey, look, I am a very good player. I should demand some respect. I should let my feelings be known in terms of how I want things to be handled, whether it's, outright demanding that you go get somebody or talking to the powers that be and saying, look, man, like I really think I'd fit well with player A. I think we should really think about trying to go and get him. And I think that sort of evolves and grows as you go. So I think right now, outwardly, I have never gotten the sense that Embiid is like a, near LeBron type because he's at the extreme, right? Where LeBron, if he wants something, he asks for it, he gets it. But right. I think that could grow with Joel Embiid, especially as he realizes like he's got gravity. He's one of the best players in the NBA.
Jonathan, before I let you go, I want to ask you a little off the specifically basketball stuff because you're out there in Vegas. I got to know your perspective on this. You guys got the Raiders come to town. Vegas is playing in the NHL playoffs. Now the A's might be moving to town, looks like. I mean, what is the vibe like out there in Vegas? Because it's like the whole sports world is turning on its head and they're showing up in your backyard.
Oh, yeah. F1 coming next year, too. Don't forget that. So that's another thing that's out here in Las Vegas. No, look, I think there's a lot of excitement out here in Las Vegas about it. I think this time around, there's a little bit more coldness to Major League Baseball coming around, only because, again, there's talks of more public funding, and it's not a particularly good team that has no real history of trying to spend to make their team very good. So I don't sense at least as much excitement. I'm actually doing local radio today here out in Vegas. So like we don't really get the sense of excitement as we did with like the big powerhouse that is the NFL or an expansion team that is your own in the Vegas Golden Knights. There is a lot more indifference to the Oakland A's if they come out here. That's for sure.
Interesting. Very interesting. You can give him a follow on Twitter at MeJVT is Jonathan Von Tobel. You can catch him out there, ESPN Las Vegas. And of course, he's the senior NBA betting analyst for Visa. Appreciate you jumping on today.
Hey, thanks. We appreciate it, man. Glad we can make it work.
Absolutely. Hey, we got a bunch of messages to get to. I see Cole from LBI. I see James typing in. I see a bunch of people checking in to the show. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs in the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I'll get to all your messages on the other side. Some people, they're not happy with my take on Jokic and Embiid. Find out what they have to say next on 97.3 ESPN.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Around and down! A dagger three by Butler.
The Heat storm into Boston and still game one. Now the Celtics face a critical game two. Will they respond? Or are the Heat taking a 2-0 lead to Miami? Game two of the Celtics and Heat, presented by Indeed. Coverage begins tonight at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Listen to the Eastern Conference Finals exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
Matt Platt Nissan is now open on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Get out of that old car, truck, or SUV and into a brand new Nissan. The all-new Matt Platt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattplattnissan.com.
Kickstart summer savings now at the Home Depot. Get the yard in top shape for another season of doing with a Ryobi walk-behind mower for $349 only at the Home Depot. Featuring 40-volt battery compatibility for gas-like power to get the whole lawn looking fresh in just one charge. Plus, the 3-in-1 mowing function provides mulching, bagging, and side discharge capabilities right out of the box. Make your summer yard shine. Shop Ryobi walk-behind mowers for just $349 at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Take as little as 3 minutes to see if you could save on motorcycle insurance with Progressive. Come on, you've spent more time than that debating your accessories.
Could use some new riding gloves. Guess I'll go with black leather again. Just seems so basic. Wait, what if I did white leather? People be like, hey, this guy's different. Or they might be like, hey, this guy looks like a butler. Yeah, okay, black leather it is.
Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot, but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right, you don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait, text PLACE to 200-300.
Homeowners trust Jenkins Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Business owners trust Jenkins too for light commercial services. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy. Call Jenkins. One call does it all. For new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, ductless air conditioning systems, water heaters, boilers, oil service, plumbing, and drain cleaning services. Call now and learn about rebates through the HVAC Energy Efficiency Program brought to you by South Jersey Gas. Call 609-641-6262 or visit jenkinsonSons.com.
When you have trouble sleeping, it's tough. When kids have trouble sleeping,
Mom, I can't sleep. Dad, just one more story?
for nights like this, try Vicks Pure Z's Kids. Our great tasting gummies are specially formulated for kids with a unique blend of botanicals and a low dose of melatonin to support their natural sleep cycle. Best of all, they're drug-free and non-habit forming. Help your child fall asleep naturally with Pure Z's Kids Gummies. Consult with a doctor before use. For ages 4 and up.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, buy a 5-quart jug and get a free STP Extended Life Oil Filter. That's right, free. Get started on your next job today with the parts you need, when you need them, at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Time to tee it up at the 40th Annual Ranch Hope Wranglers Golf Tournament, Friday, June 2nd at Centerton Golf Club, presented by Woodruff Energy. Proceeds will benefit Ranch Hope's youth activities. Ranch Hope is entering its 59th year serving the youth and families of New Jersey. The tournament is made possible by Comtech Systems, PSEG Nuclear, Mannington Flooring, Atlantic City Electric, First National Bank of Elmer, SJ Water Conditioning, Heritage Dairy Stores, RCL Solar, Foster Carney Foundation, and Pennsville Bank. Let's tee it up for Ranch Hope. Sponsor and player registrations at ranchhope.org.
Now, more Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
You know, some of you guys really don't like Joel Embiid. And it seems like this is almost similar to, one of my problems. For those who don't know, my media background, I started I'm talking about a while ago in the news talk world. Okay. And whenever there was an election cycle, people would trash the person they don't like. And so often they would come up with things that weren't actually real. Instead of criticizing the candidate for actual issues or things that they had said and did, it was almost like they wanted to make things up. And I got to say, I'm going to read all your texts. I'm going to read all your messages. So I got to tell you, some of you guys sound like you're listening to some irrational people. Over on the DMs, let's first on the DMs here. James chimes in and says, I think Pascal Siakam would be a good fit with Embiid. Can the Sixers actually make it happen? Well, the reason why the Siakam thing has come up to me, the reason why I bring it up as well is because I looked it up. Siakam and Tobias Harris both have expiring contracts, and they're both guys who are making about the same amount of money. So it's a trade that can work financially for both teams. If Toronto is serious about maybe going through a bit of a rebuild or a retool, keeping Siakam might not be in their best interest. Maybe a team like the Sixers would be willing to give up Harris, maybe one other player to get him. I don't know who that one of the players off the top of my head would be. Is it Jaden Springer and Tobias Harris or Pascal Siakam? I don't know what the exact number is. But, I haven't looked at every contract in the roster, but I do know that Tobias Harris' contract allows you to do trades. And I am under the assumption that he will not be back there next year. Everything I've heard and read. So Siakam, I think, does make sense to him because Siakam would allow the Sixers to have another post player who can play versatile defense. You heard Jonathan Benton was talking about the switching that Toronto did. And Siakam, I think, is a good enough scorer and rebounder to take pressure off Embiid. Now, if your big three is Embiid, Siakam, and Maxey next year, I personally don't think it's a championship team. I don't personally think that's a big three to help you win a championship. Is it maybe enough for you to get by a team like Boston, though? Maybe. Probably not, but again, it depends what the other tweaks are for the roster because, you could trade Korkmaz. He's got a bloated contract. Maybe you get somebody for him as well. We'll have to wait and see. But I think Siakam is a name to keep an eye on. On the DMs, LTD chimes in and says, do you have a coach you prefer for the Sixers to hire? I personally like Nick Nurse. It seemed like Toronto outplayed their skill level pretty often last year. Well, LTD, I do like Nick Nurse a lot. To me, the two coaches I've been really bouncing these ideas a lot around in my head. The two coaches that make the most sense to me, if we're going off of most recent resumes, are Monty Williams and Nick Nurse, because I think Williams and Nurse are both imaginative coaches who get along with players. They both have a history of getting along with people. And I'm not going to hold Monty Williams' conflicted relationship with DeAndre Ayton against him because Ayton seems like he doesn't have, everything in order upstairs. Okay. Ayton seems like a guy that he doesn't have a full grip on reality because of some of the things he has said and reportedly done. So if he has a better relationship with Monty Williams, I am not going to hold that against him. As far as Nick Nurse, my only concern with Nick Nurse is this. That report that came out last month where it talked about how Nurse didn't know if he wanted to coach anymore. He wasn't sure if he was being burned out. And remember, Doc Rivers was supposed to be a guy who was going to get some time off from coaching. And then all of a sudden says, I'm going to be the Sixers coach. My concern with Nurse is, are you getting the best version of Nick Nurse? This is a guy who was already, there was chatter about him potentially walking away from basketball, not wanting to be a coach. So that's my only concern with Nick Nurse. The other guy I would consider is Frank Vogel. I think Vogel, not just because he used to coach in the area and he's from Wildwood here in South Jersey, but because of the fact that I think Vogel showed a lot of growth. And you saw how vocal LeBron was about Frank Vogel and his support of him. He feels like a guy that could maybe get through to Embiid and Maxey in a way that I don't know if Budenholzer will. Budenholzer now has been run out of 2 jobs for basically having conflicts with the front office. I don't know if that's the guy I want coming to Philadelphia necessarily. By the way, another texture came in and said we should have made Ryan Williams the coach before we got rid of Brett Brown. The problem was that Brett Brown was here for a variety of reasons. Kicking Brett out and keeping Monty is hindsight 2020. That's like saying you should have never signed Al Horford when people were all for signing Al Horford when he first came here. A lot of people believed in that. All right, over on the text board, 609-403-0973. Anonymous chimes in and says, Josh, you're making a lot of excuses for Embiid. Jokic as averaging a 30-point triple-double in the last series, including a 50-point game. Stop, Josh. Jokic is taking his team to the finals. Again, it's not about dissing Jokic and making excuses for Embiid, all right? Anyone who's listened to me and paid attention, and, active listening is a part of listening on radio on 97.3 ESPN FM, on 97.3 ESPN mobile app. If you're an active listener, you would know that Joel Embiid on my rankings of who to blame for this series, for the series loss, Embiid was number 2. So I'm not making excuses for Embiid. I'm stating a fact of life. If you don't like reality, then maybe you need to go see a therapist or something. All right, man? Like, you don't even leave your name on the text, so I can't even call you out by name. So here's the reality. No team has ever won with an individual. Joel Embiid is right. He can't do it by himself. Now, does Joel Embiid need to cut down the turnovers? Yes. Does Joel Embiid need to become a more consistent, efficient player offensively? Yes. But he didn't win the MVP by accident. He didn't lead the league in scoring by accident. And if we're going to criticize Embiid for something, let's criticize him for the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's never played 75 to 80 games. When Hakeem Olajuwon won a championship at age 31, it was because the majority of his career up to that point, he had been healthy. That's the difference. If you're going to ding Embiid, ding him for, can he stay healthy? But don't tell me that Jokic is so much better and he's taking his team to the finals when you're completely ignoring the fact that when Jamal Murray wasn't healthy and when Michael Porter Jr. wasn't healthy, and before they got Bruce Brown, they were never in a position up 2-0 in a series in the conference finals. Your teammates matter. Stop acting like it's just one guy who wins all the time. The people who think it's just one guy who is completely responsible for winning is probably the person who didn't play sports when they were younger, or there's somebody who listens to specific talk radio hosts who have agendas. That's really what it comes down to. Cole from LBI chimes in at 609-403-0973, says, this may sound crazy, but NBA trades are usually crazy. How about you get a multi-team deal where Harden does a sign and trade and goes to Houston, Harris goes to Portland, Dame comes to Philly, and then you said all the pieces for Harden to Portland so you can get Dame, and then you have Embiid, Dame, Maxey, Melton, and Tucker. That's some solid pieces. That's Cole from LBI. Cole, my 2 reactions to that are this. I love the trade in premise. I don't know if it would actually happen. The problem with Portland is trying to turn things around very quickly. There's a lot of rumors that they want to trade that team in the near future. They want to sell that team in the near future. So a trade that lands you Tobias Harris and a bunch of pieces, I don't know how appealing that is to them in terms of building the value of that organization. I love Dame for the Sixers. I think that he would be a better player than Siakam would with Embiid. The concern with the Damian Lillard, Tyrese Maxey backcourt is their size. They're not bringing a lot of size. So when you're playing a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, how do you match up defensively? You would still need a bigger 4 guy who has versatile defensive ability out there. I don't think it's as simple because remember, if you lose Harden, you bring in Lillard, you get rid of Harris. I believe the number is about $10.5–11 million you'll have to work with. And I know they have a trade exception, so maybe there is an extra guy they can get in that trade. But Cole, I like the way you're thinking. You're being outside the box. I appreciate that. Another texter chimes in, 609-403-0973. Says, I love you guys here at 973 ESPN. Let's be clear. This is like fantasy. Take Jokic over Embiid. Have a blessed weekend. Well, you have a blessed weekend as well. I don't think fantasy sports and real world sports are the same. I think that you have to separate those two and realize that what happens in fantasy and in video games is not the rest of reality. Andrew Summers Point says, Embiid stinks, clean house. Embiid doesn't stink. You can't win MVP of the league and stink. If you want to say he's injury prone, yes. If you want to say he has a lot of turnovers, yes. If you want to say he's inefficient, yes. Does he stink? No. You don't win MVP of the league and you stink. That's silly. And I told you guys my theory yesterday. If you can't get to the finals this upcoming year, then you clean house because then you can recoup that 2025 first round pick you traded away. Jeff from Summers Point chimes in and says, Josh, how about a D'Angelo Russell or a Porzingis? Get rid of Harris. And I think we're in good shape. P.S. I'm having fireballs and Coors Lights, my dude. Happy belated birthday, my buddy. Yeah, thank you, Jeff, first of all, for the birthday wishes. It was my birthday a few days ago. I appreciate everybody chiming in. I'm out on Russell and Porzingis because I think you're seeing from Russell that he is not built for the moment right now in the playoffs. And I think Porzingis is overrated. If you're worried about Embiid and his injuries, then what about Porzingis? I think Porzingis more injuries probably than Embiid is. Text chimes this. Let's be real. Hakeem is winning a title if Jordan doesn't retire. Yeah, but Hakeem didn't get to the finals until he was 31 years old. He's up to get there to win it. There's another text that came in. I'll get to that text message off the air because that's a very long explanation. So thank you to everybody for chiming in. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll be co-host with Billy Schwein tomorrow in the locker room, 97.3 ESPN.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. We'll recap the Phillies-Cubs Friday night action. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan checks in from Las Vegas with his input on the NBA and second leg of the Triple Crown, and talk with Jeffrey Nash from FastlaneHandicapper.com on the Preakness. Finally, we'll kickstart the Beach Patrol Report, brought to you by McCann Realtors of Sea Isle City and the Ocean City Lifeguard Alumni Association. All that and more, it's the Locker Room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
So, a couple comments I want to get to here on the YouTube side only. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let you people know that I do reply in the post-show part of the broadcast because two messages came in at the very end, and I didn't want to avoid these questions because Lance over on the YouTube side chimed in and said Harden isn't doing a sign and trade. Lance goes on to say Houston has the cap space. They don't need to trade anything for Harden. They can sign him to a max. Well, they actually can't, Lance. According to Bobby Marks, who used to work in the NBA, he says that Houston can only offer Harden to a certain number of max. And I don't want to get deep into the minutia because I don't run an NBA team and neither do you. All right. So we don't need to get hyper specific about it. But basically, for those who don't know, the way it works in the NBA economically is this. You can re-sign your own guy to the highest possible number. Then a opposing team can offer a different type of max. So, for example, if James Harden hits the market and signs with Houston instead of coming back to Philadelphia, okay, and I'm just, I'm using a little conjecture when it comes to this information because I know that the Rockets and what they can and can't offer is there's been a lot of debate about it. All right. But basically the way it works is Houston can offer about 11 to 12 million less per year than what the Sixers can. That's the general number that's out there. So Harden can't get the maximum dollar amount if he only signs with Houston. That's why you do the sign and trade. Because if Harden wants to get the maximum dollar amount, that's how he gets it. Now, you're right. Harden doesn't have to do a sign and trade. He doesn't have to do the Sixers a favor or help them out at all. Lance, you're 100% right. But, and I'll say but, Daryl Morey and him are close. They're very good friends. You know that Harden agreed to take less money last year to help Morey build the roster. And now Morey is giving him an out with a player option. So now he can resign a new contract after this year. You don't think they might have a side agreement to say, hey, if it doesn't work out, I'll help you get your money. I'll send you to Houston. Now, unless Harden is totally disenfranchised with Morey, maybe Harden is mad at how Daryl built the team, how the season went. Maybe he doesn't care anymore. But Houston doesn't have the cap space for the real max contract. They only have the cap space to offer up to a certain number. The Sixers can actually offer him more. The way the NBA collective bargaining agreement is set up is that the team that already has you can re-sign you to the most amount of money. So That's why you're kind of right, you're kind of wrong there, Lance. And the other comment that came in, so someone on the text board texted in, said, "Hey Josh, what agendas do other radio and TV hosts have? I'm asking, I'm not being contentious." And the person didn't leave their name, and I appreciate them asking an honest question. And I think this is a longer winded conversation for something like here on my YouTube channel that it is on the radio on 97.3 ESPN. There are three types of media personalities in today's world. There are the media people who say and do things for attention and for clicks and for listeners and for viewers, and they're not even fully sure what they're saying and what they're putting out there content-wise is actually valid or not. They're just doing stuff for attention and clicks. Like they'll put misleading headlines on stories on websites or misleading headlines on YouTube channels. Or they'll put out, disingenuous topics on the radio or television to try to manipulate the audience. The second type of host out there is the person who aggregates all their information. And what I mean by that is they go out and find all types of articles and quotes and stories and all these different things that line up with a already predisposed idea or opinion they have. And then they disseminate that information in a way that makes them look smarter or better in terms of their opinions and perspectives. And then you have the third type of media person, which is more like myself, which is I just take everything that I see at face value. I say, what I see in front of me, what I analyze in front of me, that's what I am taking my analysis on. When I hit on 2/3 of my football picks every year, it's not because I'm the smartest guy in the world. It's because I rip away my biases. I try to shred away from myself the things that would make me be having an incorrect view of things. And I try to view the sport and the world through the way that it is. And the problem is that when you look at sports, we all walk in with predisposed biases. Okay. What's one of my biases? One of my biases was I thought the Warriors were still the Warriors. I thought the Warriors still had the ability to elevate and win a championship. And I completely underestimated LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and that Lakers team. And I completely underestimated how good this Nuggets team is. That's a bias that I had. That is something that I need to now work out of my system. So now when I make a pick in the next round, I'm more accurate. So if you do have Nuggets and Heat, I won't get the NBA Finals, or I'll be half and half. So how can I learn from that? That's how I look at sports. I look at sports like I look at life. In life, you learn from things, you try to adjust and grow and evolve and become a better person every single day. And I'm not saying that because it's some posted on my wall or a saying that I listen to wake me up in the morning. It's just it's a worldview I have. So that's what I mean when I say there are people who have agendas. There are people who they don't like Joel Embiid because he doesn't fit in the narrative that they have propagated to their audience. Or Joel Embiid, not liking Joel Embiid is the popular thing to do to get attention and get people to call or text a radio show or leave a lot of comments on a show. That's what I mean by that. It's not that there is a built-in bias against Joel Embiid universally. It's a case-by-case basis where a specific TV show host or a specific analyst or a specific radio show host or a specific YouTuber, for example, I was texted earlier this week, and I don't want to say the person's name because if they choose to divulge this, I will let them. But there's somebody who I know in the media world who was going to use a YouTube video as the source material for their show. And they sent me the video before they went on their radio show. And I'm glad they did, because what happened is I saw the video and I said, this information is inaccurate. There's all kinds of statistical and factual inaccuracies in this video. And the video was very anti-Joel Embiid. But the video was wrong because the video tried to say that Joel Embiid is 0-9 in elimination games. He's actually 5-10. I looked it up. So I'm like, that doesn't sound right. The video said that Joel Embiid was averaging 22 points a game in games 6 and 7 in the Celtics loss. Well, he actually averaged 20. The video that's supposed to be trashing Embiid gave him more points than he actually averaged in those 2 games. The video tried to say that Joel Embiid has never had a good playoff game. And that's factually inaccurate. You can literally go through the game log. Anybody can do it. You can look it up online. You'll see that Joel Embiid has plenty of successful playoff performances. Joel Embiid is not choking every single game. In fact, if you go to a site like a Basketball Reference or an ESPN.com, you will see that Joel Embiid has 18 games in the postseason where he has scored 30 or more points. Now, it's 18 out of 53, so it's a small number, but to say that Joel Embiid never has good playoff games, in fact, if you want to make the number even bigger, how many games has he scored at least 26 points in a game? 23 times out of 53. So has he had bad playoff performances? Absolutely. But we need to stop acting like Joel Embiid is bad just because you were told that he is bad. Just because somebody on YouTube or the internet or television puts out this information about a guy doesn't mean it's true. Listen, I told you guys here on Game Night, and of course you're watching on my YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share with your friends. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the post show. Joel Embiid is number 2 to blame for the Sixers' loss to the Celtics. Doesn't mean he stinks. Doesn't mean he's not good. It also doesn't mean Jokic is that much better than him. And we as a sports fan base have to stop being so gullible. Just because somebody else says something, we have to remove our bias from things and be honest. And if you're being honest, Joel Embiid is one of the 10 best players in the NBA today. Whether you would start a team with him or not, that's on you. But I warn people about something very important before I get out of here. We got to start treating athletes like they are the only reason why their team wins or loses. When the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, they lost it for a list of reasons. Andy Reid's a future Hall of Famer. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Those are 2 reasons right there. Isaac Seumalo, horrible false start that ruined the game. The field on the Super Bowl was slick, and the Eagles training staff did a horrible job at giving the players the right cleats to give them the proper footing, while the Chiefs training staff did a much better job at having the players ready for the game. Those are just some reasons that have nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, have nothing to do with Nick Sirianni, have nothing to do with Jonathan Gannon. Did Jonathan Gannon have a bad game? Yes. I've criticized him a million times. Why did the Warriors lose the series to Lakers? Steph Curry was inconsistent. Clay had almost no clutch shots. Draymond Green didn't help the cause. Jordan Poole came up small. It's not all Steph's fault. So we, as a sports fan base, have to just stop being so intellectually dishonest at times. Again, thanks everybody for watching the post show. Indulge me with your time. At Josh Hennig on YouTube, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Game Night will be back on Monday here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and live right here on my YouTube channel. I will be on the Locker Room with Billy Schweim tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN FM. It's going to be a very interesting show with Billy because Billy thinks that Daryl Morey is a horrible general manager, and I have to take the unenviable position of being the voice of reason. I hate having to be the voice of reason all the time because it doesn't allow me to give my opinions as much. I got to be the person who, walks people off the proverbial ledge instead of being the person who's allowed to jump out here and debate and talk. So, but I do appreciate everyone who chimes in. I love it when you guys give me feedback. Great stuff today. I'll catch you guys next time.